want to give him enough time, and he's got to get going here pretty quick, so we'll let him have the floor.
Morning. Good morning. Can I get back in the classroom? Yeah, don't stop meeting. It's been a while, and I wanted to get out front and share some updates, share my appreciation for the school year. I try to get out and do a tour of the schools as well, because I haven't been out in those places either for quite a while. So, I don't know what kind of updates to share with you really at this point. I think we're all just trying to get through one day at a time and get to the end of the school year. But building construction-wise, as far as the bonds go, has gone very well. Everything's on time and under budget. So we should open those two schools next year. The monstrosity building on the corner over here should open in November. We're tentatively scheduling winter concerts there. The swimming pool, the boys' swim season is I think starts in November. We hope to have that season and not use the YMCA anymore. So we're excited about all that. And then the addition of May South High School, the upgrades at Mays High School will start immediately after school gets out this year. And then next year we'll start on the elementary playgrounds and the STEAM labs in the elementary schools and so forth. So that's one of the best things that's happened this school year. I mean, it's nice and new and gives us the space we need, and it's gone well. We've been very lucky. Not like everything else, but I wanted to share my appreciation for all of you. I will say, of all the challenges we've had this school year, frustrations, I guess if some of you don't recognize me, you can go watch YouTube. There were a few challenging meetings this year, concerns, frustrations, very different opinions on every side of every issue, and that's still coming in. But that's what we do. We try to do what we can, what's best for our staff, what's best for our kids, and not everybody agrees with those things. But we'll spend this next summer and this next year working to heal some wounds, have some maybe actual face-to-face conversations instead of Zoom meetings and Zoom calls and sitting behind masks here pretty soon. So I do expect the school board to meet around the 25th of May, take care of a few issues with special education, take care of a couple of personnel contracts, and then I suspect we will likely rescind all together for tomorrow, all policies related to COVID, effective June 1st, somewhere like that. And then I think this summer activities, summer school, masks will be encouraged, but not required. And then we'll see how things go. CDC made a big announcement yesterday, hopefully encouraging everybody to get vaccinations. I think there's significant research and evidence at this point that indicates the value of those, the effectiveness and efficacy of vaccinations. I encourage vaccinations. I don't. That's not a fence I sit on. I'm strong on the vaccination side. I was a science teacher. I understand how to read research and make decisions based on those people that are the experts in the field. I'm sure you understand I get plenty of help from people who aren't in education that try to help me do my job. And I appreciate input, but I have some experience in this profession. I also don't act like I know how to drive a bus. I did drive a semi when I was in college, hauling chemicals and so forth, but I didn't have any little kids behind me. So I'm not going to act like I know how to do your job or how hard it is. I also don't do that with scientists and doctors either. So please, if you haven't, get your vaccination. It's going to make you much safer when the next school year starts. I don't anticipate masks being required the next school year. We'll see how things progress, but I suspect that either through vaccinations or through infection, we should probably reach something close to herd immunity by the time the next school year starts. I would rather you get vaccinated than catch COVID, because I'm suspicious that the complications from the illness are much more significant than any complications from a vaccine, but that's just based on what I've read. You understand about the special ed transition we've been going through for 2 years. All special education programming will be our decision, will be our work. All those employees from special education will be our employees. We've onboarded about 400 plus new employees, most of which worked for the interlocal before. So we'll get to make those decisions. Our board will be the board for special education. We will partner with the Renwick School District. They're part of our cooperative, but we are the host district. So we'll still have programs. The ILC is now ours, effective July 1. We'll run those programs for all 9 school districts that are part of the interlocal, so almost nothing will change over there. It's a great program, serving difficult kids, amazing staff. We didn't want to mess with that. There are a few other programs. Life Skills at Renwick will also operate for all 9 districts.
We'll see that grow out there.
I don't know if we'll see that grow.
There's a couple of parents that I work with out there were asking about that.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll grow. I think, again, since we'll have some authority, we'll be able to try to improve it, figure out either places or locations or different programming and so forth.
Because right now it goes to 8, so that's what they were asking.
Yeah, they have the structure there, K-8 buildings that make that the most suitable place. Really, all districts agree that's the best place for it. So, but again, we'll see how it changes. So.
How are we affected next year? Is it 2.5 mile radius thing still in the effect?
Good question. I don't know. We are already receiving questions from patrons about that. Will they then, if they live across the street from a school, then will they get a bus ride next year? I don't know. That's going to be difficult to pull off. There may be some reverting back to the old in some aspects. Like where I live now, there is a stretch. I mean, it's even to get to the south campus, it's a little over 2 miles, I believe, and there's no sidewalk spaces and so forth. So some places may change, but it's unlikely that if you live across the street from a school, you'll get a bus ride. Yeah, I haven't had anybody mad at me for a couple hours yet, so we'll see. Honestly, that's a decision I just shouldn't put off until after school gets out, because things are, yeah, people are still, it's just, everybody's mad about everything, whether it's in our school district or in the city or in the country. It's hard. It's really hard right now for everybody. So please be patient with each other, be patient with your students, be patient with your parents, be patient with your spouses, your children. It's hard right now. I feel like I'm on damage control nonstop. I'm not seeking sympathy. I just want you to be conscientious, and I'm sure you are. But I want to kind of go back to what I was saying is, of all the challenges we've had this year, I'm still shocked. I shouldn't be shocked, but transportation is one of those places where, outside of challenging, make sure we have enough drivers and combining routes here and there and stuff like that, I've heard very little complaints.
It's all these people over here.
It is everybody. It is the patience, the determination, the hard work. Sometimes you guys are coming when you're tired. You're driving when you're keeping your mouth closed. When people are difficult to work with. You've been outstanding this school year. I'm not saying that because I'm in front of you. I've shared that in a few other cases. So I appreciate you. We have to have you. You are critical. And not just because we have to get kids to and from school, but because I've shared this with you before, you're the first person, certainly first school employee that many kids see in the morning, and the ones that delivers them home at the end of the day. You can make or break the day at school for a kid or the evening, how they interact with their siblings and their parents when they get home. It's really important. Day after day after day. Our greatest concern for our students right now isn't their academic progress. It is their mental health. Kids are struggling, especially when we first brought them all back. They're starting to become more familiar, re-institutionalized, used to rules, used to routines, used to practices, used to expectations. sometimes we have higher expectations than those kids have at home. So, so they're starting to get better, they're starting to get around their friends, they're starting to get away from their phones. So we'll have to do this again in August, but we're used to doing it in August. Kids, families used to being excited to come back to school, but I'm ready for a break too. So I got time for a couple of quick questions.
Yeah, hearing rumors, if you know anything, days off package is changing from 9 days now, and school district buys back unused days, and if we have perfect attendance, we get a $50 bonus, and that might change to 16 days off, but no buybacks after 100 accumulated days, and no $50 bonus for perfect attendance. Have you heard anything?
You know, I had a parent email me yesterday, upset, because they heard that we were hiring somebody to be the next May South High School principal. They heard it at a graduation party, and that person didn't even apply for the job. So I do hear lots of rumors. This is like that. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe there's conversations. I have not. Nobody's talked to me about that. We don't even have a date yet to train to negotiate with teachers, let alone negotiations dates set up. I mean, it is one day at a time for us right now. Clearly, this is what I told the teacher the other day. It's rotten for public schools, the situation we're in with teacher shortages. There are fewer and fewer applicants for more and more jobs. The only good thing about that for teachers is we all have to be competitive and pay more. We have to try to do everything we can to attract and retain teachers. That goes along with almost every other aspect of school employment right now. Everybody's having a hard time finding employees. Public schools have been dealing with that for a couple of decades. So I don't anticipate us doing something that's going to be detrimental to the compensation package of any employee. The challenge we have, and this isn't related to that necessarily, the challenge we have is it's very expensive to open new schools. The state legislature took out what's called a new facility weighting. Part of the formula, school funding formula, you get different weights for different types of students. If they're more expensive to transport or more expensive to educate because of at-risk staffing needed or what have you. They recognized when they wrote the formula in the early 90s, or at some point in the process, when you open a new school, you can't just move everybody from other schools. You have to hire a number of employees, custodians, secretaries, nurses. You can't just take them from the other school. In some cases, we can move most of the teachers over and some of the other employees, but we still have to add them. We may have to add more routes. We may have to add more drivers. We may have to add more maintenance and lawn mowing and all of that stuff. They used to account for that with some additional funding for 2 years. They cut that out a few years ago. And so we have to find a way to make that up. I suspect we'll use our contingency reserve fund, which we hate to touch, but that's what it's for, is to help get through difficult times. So we don't think it'll impact, we don't anticipate or hope it impacts what we have to compensate employees for, because that also then would create a problem. That's a long answer to the question. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was all.
Yeah, I may hear more about it later today now that you've asked the questions, because I'll ask, but I'll get you next.
Okay, so I have a question on, kind of to go along with that, but not to look for answers. So changes that a lot of us have heard that they want to implement. For those of us that have been here for 15, 20 years, longer, because there's just a handful of us that's been here longer than 25 years, we've seen a lot of changes going from being at the bus barn here in town to moving out to 53rd Street to moving back here. We've been on 4 or 5 different pay scales, different things to help our department out, to get people to apply. Because right now, we are hurting for drivers. We have a handful of drivers that go above and beyond every single day because we hear stuff come on the radio and things need to be done. Somebody has to do it. and people in the office are in the buses. They're incapable of driving 2 buses. Some of us are incapable of driving 2 buses. We understand kids have to get to school, but we are hurting. Like, I think sometimes the school district doesn't realize how bad our department is doing, because we have the people that are stepping in and covering it. So people aren't aware of how bad some of us are struggling to make sure our jobs. We have people that value our jobs. I'm one of them. I value my job. I try to be here every day. They put incentives because we were having people that didn't care. They would miss. They didn't care. They didn't care if they put people in a bind. They didn't care if they put our department in a bind. So now people that value their job, getting a pat on the back with the $50 bonus, yeah, it may not be a lot for some people, but it is for some others. Struggling single people, people that are trying to help their kids out, that $50 puts a tank of gas in their cars. So you take that away, people that are gone all the time are going to continue being gone all the time because they don't value their job. Those of us that value our jobs, that are